Welcome to the Amateur Radio Club monthly meeting for October. Appreciate y'all being here. We have about 40 people. And I hope everybody got a ticket because we're going to have some fabulous door prizes. My name's Wendy. My college line is KW3 and DY. I live in Lehigh. And I've been a member about 40 years. The 6-year-old club started very small, just a couple handfuls of people. And now we have over 1,000. So, 1,700. So, ham radio is very hot in Utah Valley. So, get all your friends involved because I've met the nicest people here.
Thank you.
I know some, I got new friends and I've got old friends, and so it's all good. We're gonna have a great time. So to start this meeting, we're gonna have Carl come up and do an announcement. Yes, sir. And you can even hit the keyboard and make it go. Down arrow.
Down arrow. Okay, I've got a couple things as usual, I guess. Down arrow. The Santa net on the 7/6. Some of you guys are familiar with it, others may not be. But on the Christmas Eve and Christmas Eve, that's the 23rd and the 24th at 7 o'clock. On the 7/6, we fire up the Western reflector, the 9090, so people outside of our area can get here. And people on Echo Link can come in on Star K7TV Star. Bring your kids and your grandkids. Have them talk to Santa. Let them know what they want for Christmas. It's a lot of fun to listen to. It's a lot of fun to be involved with, and it's a good way to get the kids involved and get them on the mic and things like that. So we always have a lot of fun. There's a little history there. A little girl, Mortensen girl, I think it's Amy Mortensen, and she was supposed to have a little sister coming, and there was a problem, and little sister didn't come, and the club got together. Actually, the 7/6ers, that was before this club was involved. The 7/6ers got together and put together a big old gift basket, and everybody was so generous. And we had it sent out there, and they decided to do the Santa net at that time, and it was mostly rainy. And it was a heartfelt thing that happened, and through the generosity of a bunch of hands, made a little girls our Christmas, and we've kind of stayed with that, and it's been a good thing. So come enjoy that with us, and if you got time to bring the grandkids or the kids, you can have adults get on there. So it's been a lot of fun.
7 p.m.
7 p.m. We do it Christmas Eve and Christmas Eve. So the 23rd and the 24th, and it goes about an hour. I think we usually skip it for about an hour and a half.
Even though it says the 22nd
Yeah.
and 23rd.
20. Yeah, so that's not my mistake. That's not my mistake. I'll have to send that back to the secretary. Yeah, it's always Christmas Eve and Christmas Eve. So I wasn't even looking at that. So anyway, it looks like I already pushed the button. If there's any questions on that, we announce it every Wednesday night on the 7/6 net. Winter Field Day coming up in January. Looks like it's the last weekend in January, and we always spent that Saturday and Sunday between noon Saturday and noon Sunday. We put up antennas usually on that Saturday morning, and spend the day and night out there doing as many not DX calls, I shouldn't say it, because there's usually so many people on there that you can't get any DX. It's usually just within the states, occasional Canada, occasional Hawaii call in there usually, but get as many calls as we can for that field day. It's a lot of fun. It's not so hectic as regular field day, so it gives everybody a little bit more of a chance to get in there and get involved. So we enjoy that.
And we have hot chocolate.
Oh yeah, and Noti, I don't know, typically brings out pizza and stuff on Saturday night. I don't know if we can get him to do that again. Yeah.
Anything for free.
Yeah. Anyway, is that it? That's all? So about December 2nd. You gotta announce it. Thank you.
All right, so University, and concurrent with the class that is being taught at BYU, the next two times, pardon me, is the 16th, that's next weekend of October, and the 20th of November. So that is during the time that the Steve Whitehead is having this class. So if you are a new ham, or you want to brush up some skills, or you'd like to share, those are that's an opportunity to learn and teach. So if you need more information, you can talk to Noji. I'm sure he knows a lot about that. And then we're going to have a Christmas potluck. So put this on your calendar. We're going to be at the Orem Friendship Center, which is just off of Center Street and 400 East in Orem, 6 o'clock on Thursday, December 2nd. So there's an event posted. We will have a sign up for the potluck, just general class. General food sign up. I can't say general class. Whatever food you want to sign up for. And so put that on your calendar because we have Santa coming. You can take pictures. And I think there's even an opportunity to show and tell. So if you have something you want to show off, you can bring it up. We'll have some tables there. Next up is Mr. Chad.
All right. This is going to be, well, yeah, it's just might get caught up, I think. Try it one more time. There we go. This is a really long list, and I cannot read it that far away. So, yeah. And if I turn that way, you can hear me. Do we have any new hams here tonight that just recently got a license? Stand up. Oh, yeah. KK7A, congratulations. Any other new hats? Anyway, we are so thrilled to have, I mean, that's a big list. That is awesome. We're always growing this community. If you know any of these guys, give them a handshake, give them a shout out, and if you talk to them on the radio, help them get their first contact certificate or whatever. Just get them involved with us. So,
hey, Chad, before you get away, how many of these were part of the swap meet?
oh, I don't know. Do you know, Moji?
I don't, but there were several.
Yeah, I think go ahead.
We gave 34 exams at the swap meet. There were 15 new hams and 5 upgraded. We had 3 extras, 2 generals, and 15 techs.
So y'all hear that? 15, 3 and 2. 15 new, 3 general, 2 extra. So that's awesome, and we were just thrilled to do that again this year. And speaking of the upgrades, I did it, and there it went again. There we go. It doesn't like me. Do we have any of the upgrades here tonight? Stand up. Thanks for taking that next step in your career as a ham. I don't know if you can have an amateur career, but it feels like it. And yeah, we're just happy to have you all here and to see you progressing. All right, next. We'll turn time over to Larry. He's going to teach us about fox hunting. So, Larry, take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. One small correction. I'm WA7CBO, not BCO. Like bozo. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not a bozo. But anyway. No, is this thing working?
Yes?
Yeah.
So you just can't hear yourself,
I can't hear myself.
but we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
No.
All right. My name is Larry Jacobs. I'm WA7ZBO so far. And I live in Lehigh off Pioneer Crossing, and it's called Leisure Villas, or in Greek it's translated to Anti-Antennaville. My antennas are up hidden in the attic where nobody can see them and be offended by them. And we've been there about 3 years and really enjoyed out there. My son is John Jacobs, W7DBO. He lives about 4 blocks away to this side of me. Currently, you can see his house because he has a really nice tower that we put up when he moved in, and it's got an upside-down antenna on it. It's got one of those, one of those birdcage antennas that broke, and now it's upside down. And he said all I can do is work Australia with it. So anyway, he called where the area I'm in Senior Sanctuary, or God's Waiting Room. And he might be quite right. I've been a ham for 60 years. I don't know, anybody here been here longer than that in here? No? Oh, I'm in trouble. I got my license when I was 13 years old. I got my first novice, and then I lost it, and then I re-got a novice, and then I went on to tech, then I went on to general, and I'm working on extra right now, just so it'll be on my gravestone. I'm going to put extra. But I'd like to tell you, we'd like to talk to you a little bit about, I lost my menu, now I lost my mind. Yeah, what's my face ID?
We'll wait for you.
Oh, and I hate shopping lists. I'm going to make 2 kinds of shopping lists. One that recognizes me with my mask on, and one with a mask off. I get so tired of, it's mask time again, put it on, and it doesn't recognize my face. All right, let's talk a little bit about fox hunting and where it came from and what's going on. Fox hunting is really cool, okay? It's also known as bunny hunting, bunny hunt, transmitter hunt. Back on, we used to call it bunny hunts right here in Utah, and I haven't heard that again since then. Out in the Midwest a little bit. Fox hunting is mainly, it's in the Midwest, and on the East Coast they call it that. Tea hunting on the West Coast, transmitter hunting, it's all the same. And the nice thing is, you can involve your family, because the person hiding the transmitter, he has to be licensed, but anybody finding it, they don't have to be. So kids can do it, wives can do it. You don't need a license to go active on this. So, and that's what we're really pushing for, is kind of a family activity. In fact, I was back in Dayton. They have a little ham get-together there once in a while, and the Dayton Amateur Radio Transmitter Finding Group put on a really nice little fox hunt. And with the thing that they do, they have 30 transmitters on 2 meters.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
30. They give you a list. Here's all the 30 frequencies, and they're bona fide, and they're actually working. And they give you 1 hour, and everybody scrambles. There's usually about 30 people take part in it, and it's all over the place. And it's how many you can correctly identify with the designator on top of the box within 1 hour. And I've done that 3 times, and 2 times we got cut to a half an hour because Dayton, in the middle of May in Dayton, Ohio, for some reason it's thunderstorm time. And twice we got thunderstormed out, and we had lightning hitting so close that I almost hid in the outhouse to get away from it. The 3rd time, it was perfect. We shot video of it. My son brought his drone in. He's a commercial drone pilot. He flew his drone around, and we've got all that footage. So I think I'm going to put something together, and we'll put it on YouTube so you can refer to it. Now, California, they're crazy out there. Okay, I've been in one hunt out there, and it's the Southern California Transmitter Hunters Group. And here it is: no rules, no boundaries, no complaints, no clues. Now, generally in the summer, during good weather, they have a transmitter hunt every Saturday. It's either a local one or it's a long distance one. Now, let me tell you about long distance. They warn you, okay, this is a long distance transmitter hunt. The one particular one that I was involved with, I come in from the Utah side, because what happened is 9 o'clock in the morning, they gave them the frequency. They said, okay, get on the highway and drive east until you hear the transmitted signal, and then start following it. Okay, so they went east and they went east. They went up over the mountains. They went over the desert. Most of them stopped at Las Vegas. Some kept going. The ones that kept going, finally, 2 days later, ended up finding the transmitter in St. George, Utah, on Washington Mountain, running 1,000 watts into 44 element beam. That was 10 4-element beams in an array. Up there on the mountain, pointed back in Southern California. That's kind of extreme. That's what they do. Okay?
How would we transmit it continuously?
We had I've taken some video, I put it on YouTube, and I found that the last one I did, it said something about fox hunting in Utah. And before anybody even looked at it, they must not even look at this, because all of a sudden in the comments, I was getting chewed out for chasing these poor little animals around. All the animal rights activists, I guess I got on a list or something, because man, they started pouring in all over the place, you know. So we sometimes we change things around a little bit for them. Transmitter hunting basically is on 80 meters and 2 meters. 80 meters was what it began with, and it still is. If you go to the international events, those are all on 80 and also 2. One of the examples, like 80 meters, there was a little convention up in Max Inn. It was called Wyoming. I was chairman of it a couple times, and we had an 80-meter transmitter hunt. And one of the guys, he was in charge of that. He actually, this is back when 80-meter transmitters had tubes that, you know, that's those steel, those glass things that get warm. You touch them. Nowadays, they have these little black things that the smoke comes out of them. You can't get that smoke back in. They quit working. But this is back in the old Drake days. I think it was a Drake TR1 or something like that. He was down on the river. He had the boat upside down. He had the transmitter under. Coax was going up his sleeve into a fishing pole, which the line was lead line and was cast out about 100 feet out there. And he was like fishing around, you know. And that was the transmitter. Sometimes things get a little bit sneaky. Down at Ruby's Inn, anybody ever go to Ruby's Inn convention down there? Oh, it's a great place to have a convention. Mainly because there's nothing around for 100 miles. No distraction. Hey, these guys just went to the Sizzler. There ain't no Sizzler. There's no McDonald's or anything. Everybody's there, and you kind of have to get along with each other. And when there's an activity, you're all there because you're not scattered all over the country. One of the transmitters down there, the guy who was in charge of it, the 2-meter hunt, he went over to Modern Display, and he had to make a fake rock, okay, just the top part, and it was hollow, and he went out in the middle of the field and put the transmitter underneath that. And we looked for that transmitter. I'm not kidding you. I was all over the place. There was a half dozen of us. Finally, the guy that found it, he saw the rock and he said, I'm going to stand on this and see if I can see a little better, you know. As soon as he got on it, it's like, man, this is a weird rock, you know. So he tipped it over and there was the transmitter. Another year, the guy who was in charge of it, he took a PVC pipe and a water faucet, and he stuck it in the ground. He had a little hose going over to another water faucet that was a real water faucet. And here's his water faucet, and it's got a drip coming out of it. And that's the antenna. And then the transmitter was just right behind it. Another one was the guy who was putting on, he had his bicycle, and he put on this black Ninja bicycle riding stuff. You see him out riding, you know? And he had his cap over in that. And then he put the transmitter in the little pack behind. And as we're looking for him, he's riding circles around us. And all the time I'm thinking, what's this crazy bike rider doing out here? And then, you know, the signals went all over the place. Another one down in Southern California, they took a bunch of rope. They took two pieces of rope, 100 feet long from different posts, and they planted 2-element beams along it, and then a driven one behind it, and they shot it from down in a ravine into a box canyon. And they were running 100 watts into a box canyon, And you could not pick that thing up unless you were looking down in the ravine and actually saw it. It was all come bouncing right out of that box canyon. Let's see. One of the ways I got involved in this was many years ago. There was a CB craze. You guys remember back in 70, 71, 72, 73? Well, 2 meter rigs in cars looked a lot like CBs at the time. And somebody broke in and they stole a CB and they took it, or they stole the 2 meter rig. They hooked it up to their CB antenna, and they started calling, hey, breaker 19 on 3494 repeater, So we all kind of piled in, and we probably broke more laws than they did, because everybody hey, they called me Z-Ball, so I was Z-Ball because I was ZBO, so people knew who I was, and they were Stinky and old trucker and all that kind of stuff. So we're kind of talking with this guy, trying to figure out where he's at. We finally tracked him. Somebody put together, they had a halo antenna, if you ever know what those are. Okay, so they got the halo antenna up, and they figured he was in current, so we went that way, and we finally found him in a car wash. He was washing his car, and so we blocked either side and called the police and got the 2 meter back, which is probably worth $10 now.
Those tubes.
Yeah, I think it was like a 6-channel Icom mobile. You got to buy crystals for it. The first handheld I got was $350. It was called a standard communications. It was a 6-channel, which was really cool, because up until then we'd been running 3-channel Motorola's. We were modifying Motorola bricks and running them, and this actually had 3494 and 3476. Now, Utah County, you guys don't know about this unless you've been around long. There was a repeater war between Utah County and Salt Lake County. Utah County had a 3476 repeater. Salt Lake County had a 3494 repeater. And there was a lot of contention. Those were both valid repeater frequencies at that time. So hopefully things have calmed down just a little bit, because there was a lot of jamming going on and stuff like that. We got involved with a lot of the direction finding, was from CAP, from Civil Air Patrol. They were using these Elkers, or whatever they are, they're switcher antennas, and they weren't having a lot of luck. So Mike Mladielski, WA7IRK, he designed a switcher circuit, and we built them around 555 IC chips, little timer chips. And we built a bunch of them. This is the one I built for UHF. This is a complete UHF DFE. It's got the antennas, and it's got a switcher unit, and it's got a little UHF receiver here, put out by a company called Baofeng. I love saying that. And this, we use this for in scouts and all over the place. But this is the switcher antenna unit that we came up with. And of course, this one's all spaced for UHF. What I used this for was, we had on the rear of the locomotive, I worked for Union Pacific Railroad. I was just mentioning to our camera friend here that when I started, I used to shoot videos and create videos for Union Pacific Railroad. I started what was called M2, and then I graduated up to Beta SP, and then about time I retired, that we went to DC2 Pro or something like that. But my camera, with the Antone powered batteries on it, it was 38 pounds. I had to carry 38 pounds worth of equipment, and the tripod I bought for this very heavy camera was the best one I could get. It was $3,000. There was probably, with the camera and the editing equipment, I had $50,000 of railroad money wrapped up in it. But you know how things evolve, and it went from analog to analog to analog to digital, and finally I DI'd all of the camera gear, but the $3,000 tripod still was worth $3,000. And the last time I saw that, we donated it to the police academy for them to use on some of their equipment. So it's off to a good home. So anyway, we had cabooses on the back of the trains, and it started hurting people. People were getting tossed around in them, they were pretty hard. So we came up with what was called a rear end device. And this was a device, and you might have seen them on the rear end of trains. It's just if you ever see a little flashing light, it's a box. Well, that is hooked to the pipeline, or the brake line, and that tells the pressure, and it sends information back and forth on UHF up to the engineer. And the engineer has the receiver up there, and he's watching the rear end device, and it says you have so much brake pipe pressure, which is what you need before you leave town. And it tells if the rear end is moving or not, and all things like that. Well, the first ones that came out, they had some faulty transmitters, and they would lock on. And nobody knew that these were locking on. A train would come into town, and it would literally sit there. These things would only send about a third of a microsecond of information. Just that was it. Well, one locks on with the solid carrier, it blocks all of that. So maybe we have 20 trains in the area, and nobody's getting the information except the one that's locked on. And nobody knew what was doing that. And our communications experts came out, did a study, and they said, oh, it's the power lines interfering with it, or something like that. So I just said, well, what the heck? So I took my UHF handheld, I turned it on, sure enough, I could hear the other units in the background, but they were being doubled. So the signal wasn't getting through. And pretty soon I'd hear a very clear one, and that was the one that was locking down. So I get the number of it, but I didn't know where it was at. So I started DFing. So I take the antenna off and I drive up and down the railroad tracks looking for the rear end device that was doing it. And generally it's like bouncing in the back of a Carmen's truck, getting all beat up. So I'd stop them and pull the battery off, and then everything would go good. And they say, well, something happened, it'll start working. I never got any money for that. We used to do, in Salt Lake back in the early 70s, or mid-70s probably, we did Friday night transmitter hunts. And to make them exciting and interesting, I was in charge of some of them. And what I ended up doing was taking a recorder, and I had a cassette recorder, and I'd record like train sounds. And so I'd play train sounds over it, and everybody's like, oh, he's down the, because I'd be talking and playing the train sounds. Hey, come find me. Hey, and I hear him on the secondary, on the control group. He's down the railroad tracks, and off they'd go. And then I'd play circus calliope stuff. And they're like, where's the circus at? And then I'd play airplanes. He's at the airport. So that kind of, after a while, people kind of caught on to that. And I have one going right now. Does anybody out there have a handheld?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, turn your handheld to 146.56. 146.56. Well, that's my hidden transmitter right over here on the end of the table, and I took some little digital voice recorders, recorded different sound effects. One of them has the Utah Beehive net on it. One of them has trains. One of them has airplanes. One of them has all the farm animals, and put them into I made a little patch cord, went into Baofeng radio and put the Baofeng on blocks. And then every minute or two, I'd ID voice flies, and then kick it off, and the blocks would reset, and then back again. Because Baofeng radios will only go 600 seconds without timing out. So that was the little timeout, and that's the one over here running on the end. So again, don't believe the bunny. Okay, don't believe the fox, whatever he tells you. If you do a fox hunt, okay, here's some do's and don'ts. Okay, mostly don'ts. Don't make it a race. Okay, we've lost lives out in California. We had a Jeep, and they were racing down the hill to report that they found it or up to it or something like that. They went off the edge and it killed them both. Since then, most everybody stopped making a race. We did one that ended up being a race down in Ruby's Inn, and I laid in the back of the pickup truck while my son went through the campground at 40 miles an hour. And by the time we got up to Hamfest headquarters, we had campers following us, talking about crazy driving. So we don't do racing anymore. We use mileage. Out in California, it's called the Crenshaw Mile. It's on Crenshaw Boulevard, and it's between they measured a mile off between a phone booth and a Denny's drive-in or something like that exactly. So everybody comes in, they stop, the person down there registers the miles, they get up the other one, they look at the miles, they make a correction factor, and then off they go. Watch the time on, time off, okay? A lot of transmitters, I like to run them constantly. I found that some of these valve banks really get hot, man, it's burn your hand off. I may have to rethink this all, but most transmitter hunts, they'll say, okay, 1 minute on, 1 minute off. Well, I think that's a good idea because it's not going to kill things. However, I went to one and it was a 3 seconds every 5 minutes.
Oh, man.
Not only was that bad, but they happened to put it on a control frequency for a repeater.
Oh, dear.
So all of a sudden you're like that, and so where to go? I don't know. Couldn't even get around fast enough. And then their signal would come on and sound about the same, some kind of tone. So you stand there 5 minutes waiting for a 3 second, okay? Not fair. Not fun. Make sure you use clear frequencies. Don't use repeater control frequencies. Even if you hear, if you think it's clear, check with VHF Society directory. Make sure nobody's using that for control frequency. Make it easy enough that everybody can find it eventually. If you make it really hard, people are going to get frustrated and they'll just, they'll go home. If you use an easy transmitter, use a hard one. So at least they can find the easy one, and then if they want more challenge, they can move off and find the other one. I have 15 transmitters. I know it. Don't tell my wife if she's watching this. 5 of different kinds. 5 of them are these right here. Now these are called ARDF transmitters. These come on. I have 5 of them, and they take turns coming on for 1 minute, and they cycle through for 5 minutes. So this transmitter is number 1. This will come on first, and it'll be on for 1 minute, and then it's quiet for 4 minutes, and then 5 minutes, 4 minutes. I don't know. Anyway, it'll come back on for another minute. So when you have these sites out there, there's always a transmitter on. This one's taking turn, this one's taking turn, and you have to listen to it, and they're all on the same frequency. And they identify themselves. This is MOE. So they go da 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 da, and they go E. So if you don't know Morse code, you just listen for the E and I and S and H and 5, and you've got it down. Your decision is, am I going to stay where I am for 4 minutes waiting for that one to come back on again, or am I going to try and find one of those others? And generally, the most success is if you visualize where you think this one is, and then the next one is, you go visualize and try and find that, and then you have to come back to where you were. Okay, so always use public property. Okay, I went to a fox hunt in Ruby's Inn, and I walked all the way around this place trying to find it. What it turned out to be, he had planted it in the fenced area of the swimming pool where you had to have the code to open the gate to get in. And I said, why did you put it in there? He says, well, when I checked into the hotel, they gave me the code, didn't they give it to you? I said, I'm in the campground, they didn't give me any code. And I said, most of the people out there. We had a bad incident there because as people are walking around the swimming pool and area, the public's going to be quite curious. Hey, what is that? What's that? What are you guys doing, right? One of the guys thought he'd be smart. He says, oh, there was a radioactive Russian satellite that crashed, and we're trying to find it. We think it's here somewhere. People went to the front desk, and we were told, don't ever come back again. And it took a lot of talking. You know, that was a bad move. You gotta be honest. Say, it's a orientation transmitter hunt. We're looking, this is part of Homeland Security. You know, people understand, they'll take it. And then just say, we're ham radio operators, we don't do this for a living, we don't know. Okay, when you do transmitter hunts, make sure it's in public areas. Don't do it private. Don't put it in somebody's garbage can. Don't go onto private property. And make it known right off the bat. This is not on a public, or this is not on a private place. Unless you're like no Gene, you're planting them on people's front porch. How many people around that neighborhood have people up on their front porch looking in their milk container and their mailbox, you know? Okay, cover that. Oh, let me tell you about this incident back in, how much time do I have?
You have about 20 minutes.
Okay, back in the olden days, okay, I'm talking really olden. One of the transmitters was in a briefcase with a coat hanger antenna sitting plugged into a plug in the Salt Lake Airport. And this is back before we had handhelds. So the people who found it actually had to pull their car up in front of it. They took the battery out of the car. One guy got the radio. They hooked the radio up in the antenna. 3 people went in the airport, traipsing in the airport. One guy with the antenna, one guy with the radio, and one guy carrying a car battery.
That did look suspicious.
Probably something you don't want to do anymore. One of the hardest ones I did was I went down, my son works for the police academy. And so we had access to this whole parking lot full of police cars. There's probably about 20 of them down there. And we went down and we planted one in the trunk of a police car and then hooked it up to the VHF antenna that was on every one of the cars anyway. And that was kind of fun. Somebody actually found it, but they said when they got to the parking lot, they knew, hey, it's in this parking lot. Here's a sea of police cars with all these antennas.
This is like the good things to do or the things maybe not to do now.
Well, I don't know. I don't know. It was a lot of fun at the time. You know, the police kind of went along with it. They thought that was fun. Well, let's spend the rest of the time talking about some of the toys I brought. We were talking about the switcher antennas. And switcher antenna is should be called a time of arrival. What it does is that camera was the transmitter. It'd be looking at both these, it'd be switching back and forth between these. And if one antenna got closer, then the signal was right here first before it hit here. And then a little light would come on and say, hey, turn left. And you go this way, and then it would come on again. And generally, when they're balanced out, the little light says right in the middle. Well, we kind of invented these things. And then a guy down in California went into business building them. And this is a commercial, same thing. And it's got a nice compass there, but it's got a left turn, right turn. And it has, you hook it up to your radio, it also gives you audio. So the audio would go, and also the light would come on and say, hey, turn left, now turn right. And the good thing about that is that you know you're either towards it or it's behind you. So they also put a directional in here. So if you turn it on, it'll give you more gain one way than the other. So we can always tell. Now I have 2 of these, and I don't even know if they make them anymore, but they're kind of interesting. I'll show you one. Okay, along the lines of that, this is a loop antenna. It uses a Faraday loop. And the same thing, only this is the no. With the Faraday antenna, and what I've done done is I put an attenuator on it, and basically, when the signal's coming in, if you're this way, it attenuates out, and both sides equal out. This side equals that, cancels this one out, and all of a sudden you've got in the middle, okay? And so this is the null antenna. And you've probably seen these in the old movies with the Germans up in the truck, you know, turning around. That's what they used. So this was put out by Arrow Antenna, and this little box here was put out by National RF, who made that device there. I kept this old radio around because it's kind of cool. I like old radios. So we've got this switcher, and we got that switcher. Now there's a club back in Connecticut that put these out as kind of a club project. It's called Fox Finder. This you don't put any frequency in. It looks at all the 2 meter frequency, and it picks out it picks out a signal, and then you start finding it. And as you get closer, and you have a pair of headphones, there's a tone. You can attenuate down, and finally this thing, so you just almost put it right next to it before it picks it up. So that's kind of a cool little toy. My dad was back in New York in 1955. He went to the Lafayette store on Radio Row. Anybody ever heard of Radio Row? It's not there anymore. It got tore down with the trade centers, towers, and which is unfortunate. But that Radio Row was where all of the radio shops in the world were. And if you needed anything, Radio Row is where you buy tubes or components. So this is an antique from one of the first Lafayette things. Some people use these, but it's really got to get really close before you get a little S meter. It's a field strength meter. Sorry. Direction finding in Vietnam. This, if you were Vietnamese and you knew tigers, is a replica of tiger poop. And in it is a 223 meg transmitter and a seismic detector. And when you pull the pin out of this and you drop this along with about 500 of its brothers into the jungle, they sit there on the ground. They make them look like tiger poop because nobody's going to go in the jungle and pick up tiger poop. Okay? These babies would sit there, and then a plane would fly around listening on that frequency with direction finding antennas. And if one of them started going off, then they would hone in on it. And it meant that there were either trucks running around very close to it, and that's the only way they could tell on the Ho Chi Minh Trail where the trucks were, because the trucks, they tried sensing the spark plugs. They said, oh, that's easy. So they flew a plane around and they couldn't hear any spark plugs. And nobody told them that the North Vietnamese were using diesel trucks. So they had to come up with this idea, and they dropped these all through the canopy, and then they could tell exactly where the trucks were. Interesting. All right, let's look at a couple of modern antennas. These are good. If you want to build a switcher antenna, they still work, okay? CAP uses them a lot.
Yeah, I'd like to build one. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Okay. I think they're real easy to build, and there's plenty of plans out there. All right, you guys know what this is. This is a measuring tape antenna, and measuring tape antennas have been around a while. Actually, back in the late 60s, this was the first antenna for Oscar satellite. The first Oscar satellite, I think it was 68, 69, they launched it. North America Northrop wanted $100,000 for hydrogen-filled 10 meter antennas that would shoot out the side of the box. And so the guys back in California at the lab, they came up with these antennas. And what they did is they painted one side white, they painted one side brown. They did like every kid has ever done. They wrapped them up like this. They put a pin on them. These are 10 meter antennas. They're pretty long. And when the satellite, when the Oscar 6 left the vehicle, they straightened right out. Plus, being dark on one side and white on the other and alternating, they become a solar effect. So it spun the satellite, plus it gave a 10-meter antenna out there. So we adapted this over. Harbor Freight is a great place. You can always get a coupon for a free measuring tape. And so you've got a free antenna at Harbor Freight just waiting for you. We kind of put these together. We've done a lot of them at Hamfest. No, I think you had, how many did you build?
A whole bunch.
A whole bunch of them. Well, these work quite well. In fact, in the Dayton hunt that I went to, almost everybody was using this. But there's a great advantage because you can go through the brush like that, and you don't break anything up. Or you take them and fold them up like I have a pack here, and I can take and fold this whole thing up into a handheld pack I can take on the plane. There's a great disadvantage to them. Anybody want to guess what that would be? Did anybody use this one of these on my one? When the wind starts blowing, they start folding. And so you're out in a windstorm, and these things will fold right over, and you're out of business. But if there's no wind, they work out quite well. Now this one here, let me tell you about this box right here. This is called an offset attenuator. All right, offset attenuator. What it does, it takes the signal from the antenna, and it ups it 4 megahertz. And so when you dial in your radio, if I were to, I have a transmitter going over here. Let's see. What frequency is 145.61. Well, guess what? This radio, that antenna coming in, that's only the first component. Literally everything in this radio is trying to hear 145.61 right now. If you take the antenna away, it doesn't matter. You get close enough, and it's just going to absorb right into the radio. So if you move the frequency up 4, now you control the source. There's the source. That's that transmitter. It's going over there. Now, direction-wise, they're very good. But what you can do is you can knock it down. I just lost it. Oh, there it is. Now I can't even hear the transmitter unless I'm pointing at it. See how that works? I go this way and it's gone. I go over here and it's there. And so you can take the signal down to where it just starts dropping out. And you can literally walk right up on top of a transmitter that way. Or you can crank it all the way down to where it has maximum, so it could be 3 miles away and you're still hearing it. So offset attenuators are good. This one was built by Arrow. And it's only about $50, I think. All right, here's another kind. This is also built by Arrow. This is these are built with arrows. That's why they got their name, I guess. And this part here, this is called a sniffer. It's a BK3YNG sniffer, and it's actually made down in Australia. And what it does is this is a very isolated box. And so it doesn't, if you take this antenna off, it's not going to hear anything. So you punch in exactly what frequency, let's see, 145.61, okay, 56100. Up some volume here. And you start following this. And what happens is you point the antenna the direction the transmitter is. The transmitter's over there. So you see it start picking it up. Now when it gets up to a very strong signal, the audio goes down because what this does is automatically attenuates it. So you can start miles and miles away. And this will tell you how many dB of attenuation it's giving. And you can walk right up to the transmitter. These are available now. They didn't used to be. And we've used them with scouts. Let me tell you about what we did with some scouts with these. these are actually, you can use these on aviation frequencies for ELTs for VHF. What we did was we had geocaching, and we take a jar and we bury it somewhere, and we put a frequency into it, and then give them the geolocation, and they have to take their GMS things and go find them. And then when they find it, they get the frequency, they dial it in on their radio, and then they follow to the next one. And the next one would have another geo designator, and they take that and they follow that. And we did that 6 different leaps within about 2 hours, and it was just an absolute ball. All right, I think a friend of mine back in California, Joe Mel, he put out a book, and the unfortunate thing is we haven't had many transmitter hunting books out, and Joe put this out so many years ago, but there's a lot of information. If you see one on eBay, you better get it, because it's been out of copy. It's been out of print for probably 15 years. All right, I think I've got everything covered. We were talking about I found that carrying this around in a gun case is really helpful. Unless you're giving a presentation at the University of Utah, in your new building. And I didn't even think about it. And I'm walking in from the parking lot with this gun case, and I got pretty much to the door before I was greeted by some authorities wanting to know why I was carrying a gun on campus. So hopefully we're okay here. This is the little case. I fold this whole thing up in this case and go, I can take it on the plane with me wherever I go. Okay, I think I've covered everybody. Let's have some questions out there about this.
Okay, I've got a couple, really. Does it matter what you're sending on the transmitter? I mean, you talked about Morse code, but you've got the sounds coming. Does it really matter what you send?
No, just don't send music.
Oh, okay. Okay,
All right.
that makes sense. The other question I have is why a Yagi antenna? Can't you just use like a single dipole to?
Because of the directionability.
Okay.
Yagi antennas have a direction of they're very good gain on the front and less gain on the back and even less gain on the sides.
Okay.
And so these work really well because even though this will walk up to it, you can hear a long ways away with this. If you guys are down here in Linden and I've got something squawking over in Lehigh, you're going to be able to hear it with this. Probably not that.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah, this is from my old CB days. Do any hams do voice fox hunts where the fox goes and drives off with his mobile radio and hides somewhere, and then all the other fox hunters home in on him by engaging him in conversation like, oh, where are you east of Highway 45 or west? And they narrow it down a bit, and then they just keep talking to the fox until the first fox finds and wins.
You're not from here, are you?
No.
Yes, they are. In fact, that's probably the majority of them. Most my stuff's all automated, but if you look at the majority of the fox hunts, it's simply a guy in a car that went to Walmart and parked and says, "Here I am, come find me." So yeah, you're absolutely right. It works quite well, and you can do things like, you can vary the power up and down. That'll drive them nuts. I've actually seen where they took one of these antennas out in the desert and put it on a antenna rotator and locked it in. let the thing spin around.
That's
So
awesome.
there's all kinds of things that the fox can do to mislead people. And there was one hunt that we found down in Southern California. One of my friends was on, and there was like 20 people participating, and every one of them thought they found the fox, but none of them found the fox. All they did was find the antenna. The transmitter was actually about 100 feet away, over there behind the rock. And when they come in, they go, "Hey, I found it." Really, and what's a designator on it? And no, you found the antenna. And my friend, this is not an antenna hunting contest. This is a transmitter hunting contest. You did not find the transmitter.
That's awesome.
There's a comment from our video stream that says, "Tell about the reverse bunny hunt we did in Park City for Wyoming." That's from Chuck Johnson.
The reverse one. Let's see. I'll have to remember that one. Ask him what they're talking about. Maybe just remind me. Give me a jog.
It's from Chuck Johnson.
Oh yeah. Hi Chuck. Yeah, he's one of our old hunters, but I can't remember exactly how we did a reverse one. Unless we all hid and then the bunny found us. I don't know.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Also, very valuable tool for finding people that are sitting on their mics.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I kind of remember that from Ruby's Inn. Yeah. We had one of our staffers. We had at Ruby's Inn. We were using like 147.56 or something as the staff frequency for us that were putting it on, so we could talk to each other. And all of a sudden, it started getting jammed. And doggone it! So I got my antenna, and we found it was coming from a motel room on the second floor. So we're going up and down the hallway trying to find the right one. Finally figured it out, knocked on the door, and it's one of our staff guys, and he had a Yaesu radio, which if you don't have the mic plugged in all the way, it goes to transmit.
Oh.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
So he's responded and said, we transmitted and you told us where we were.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're exactly right. I remember that now. Yeah, that was a reverse transmitter hunt. And using this with CAP, by the way, we found one of them. We found was out like in Windover, and Mike Wladioski went out there, and he not only found the canyon in the middle of the night where the plane had gone down, he could tell what elevation it was. So when the searchers came, he said it's that canyon, and it's right up there, and they were able to everybody died in it, unfortunately, but he was able to pinpoint it that way.
Interesting.
And I used this on trying to find one jammer. We had somebody that was jamming us on frequency, and I was able to tell. I scanned it was a 2-story motel. I was able to scan it until it was about there, and I was able to do this until it was up there. And within one room, we had jammers.
That's cool.
Must have been the Russian.
You build a lot of your own transmitters. What does it cost to build them?
It's ridiculously cheap now. It's like okay, this one. How much does a bell thing cost? $25.
$25.
Okay. How much did this cost? Oh, this cost $15 on eBay. So, okay, you got 25, you got 15, and when you get the Baofeng transmitter, you're going to get a wireless mic. And for some reason, Baofeng messed up the keying on these things. You'd think that they would have it straight in, but what it is, you got to ground one side and another on the other pin. So you have to take their, the useless little headphones that they give you. You take it apart and you rewire it, and it works quite fine. And then this was, I think, 50 cents at Sam's Club. So that was cheap. This particular one was a little more expensive. This was built under a plan in Canada. The guys died that actually made this plan, but we built these, and this is called a Montreal Transmitter. And I wish I had never built it, because with him dying, I couldn't get any information, and it took forever to try and figure out how to program it. The next one over there, that is a Radio Shack micro handheld that they used to sell, and I get them for $15, $20 on eBay, and then for $50 you get a Bionics controller that plugs into them, and then you can program anything into that, your call, what kind of signal you want, and all that kind of stuff. So those are kind of fun too. More questions?
Might be kind of a bonehead question, but do the transmitters have to transmit ID every 10 minutes like normal? Or?
I usually do it every 2 minutes. I want people to know what it is, and then on the voice one, on the digital I do voice transmission, and on the others it's all digital. It's code, and you can put that code in any speed you want.
Could you still include like the call signs like in the recording, or does it need to be digital?
Oh no, you can do it. No, you can do that. Yeah, you can record a call sign on code. It doesn't matter. We still use Morse code.
Interesting. Thank
All right, any last questions? To burn my time up. All right, thank you very much. Oh, one more.
One final question. How does this get around the no broadcasting rules?
Because you're not broadcasting music, you're just simply doing a QSO. You're not broadcasting anything.
It's a beacon.
A beacon, you can have beacons.
Oh, so this would count as more of a beacon.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically, if you want to go to 10 meters or 6 meters, you're going to hear a lot of beacons when it comes in. And those are continual broadcasting with the ID. And so that it's just like a beacon transmitter.
Thanks.
Are there current contests for RDF?
For ARDF?
Yeah.
There are. We don't have them here, but they're all over the country. In fact, the Dayton last year had the international, and they had that is a wild event. That's a running event, man. You know, those things are planted out there, and you have to run and run and run. So it becomes, what you do is you go find the best runner you can in high school, and then because he doesn't have to have a license, and then you teach him how to run after it. Us old guys don't run after transmitters anymore. But in Utah, no, we don't have the ARDF. I've got the equipment to do it sometime, and I was waiting for kind of COVID to settle down. We're right now at 1,800 cases a day, so I'm a little bit afraid, you guys. But we were going to get a park and have a little seminar over there.
Very cool.
We good?
Yep.
All
Thank
right.
you so much, Larry.
Thank you very much. We appreciate all your time and fascinating electronics. I think I'm gonna have to build myself a little tape measure reactor. So look for some fun things. It's on my to-do list. So now we're going to turn the time over to Nochi for our door prizes. Woohoo!
All right, if we didn't say it already, that was an awesome presentation.
Yes, it was.
It was filled with a lot of good stuff. So appreciate Larry making the trip down here to do this. I don't know if you know, but Larry's in a wheelchair, so this was no easy task for him to make it here and do this and put all this stuff together and everything. So I just want to give him one more hand. Thank you so much. All right, door prizes. Anybody here did not get a ticket? That means you didn't drive fast enough, Keith, but hey, this is for you. Come on up, Craig.
Shut up.
You got a neck to
Anybody else?
Nick, you want to the neck to
What, you want 2 tickets?
Nick, you want I go with next. How about one second?
Anybody else? Ticket going once? No, you already got one, Scott. I know that. Anybody else? Okay. What's your number? I'm gonna tell you what's up for grabs. So before the before the 2 grand prizes, we have 4 optional ones, elective ones. So stretch and seal, some silicone tape that I find very, very useful. We have a length of paracord. A club light right here, an official with the club's logo and name right on it. It actually works. And 1 year membership in the ADMRL or renewal, whichever you got. So there you go. Those are the 4 elective ones. You can choose any one of those 4. Now, our grand prizes are genuine, one and only Carl Proctor's J-Pole. Dual band, pure aluminum goodness.
Is that the signature model?
This is not only a signature model, it's been signed by Carl. Very nice, okay.
It's got my DNA.
It's called blood, okay?
And also, yeah, exactly. I have in my hand an actual McDonald's hamburger. It's fresh. It's fresh. Is it still warm?
7 years old.
It's still warm, she says. So yeah, as Scott is my witness, I actually did go to McDonald's and pick up this very hamburger, and you can win this as a grand prize. I mean, you guys have time for dinner, right? Showed up here to take all this time away, right? So there you go. And what we're going to do is we're going to first draw the 2 grand prizes. We will not reveal the numbers until the very end. Here we go. What's your name? What's that? Xander, can you go grab one of these numbers, please? Xander's going to grab a number. He's going to hand it to me. Thank you, Xander. Wait, no, go away. This is one of the grand prizes. Pick another grand prize. Excellent, excellent. All right, here we go. These are the 2 grand prizes. Now, Xander will now pick the first of the 4 elective prizes. So, Xander, you ready?
He's got a ticket in his left hand, though.
What's your number? You might just win one.
We're gonna take it on the face, so.
All right, here we go. Xander, go ahead and pick the first winning number. And what are the last 2 digits? 94.
She's left.
94.
She's gone though.
She left.
Is that Laurel? Okay, all right. Well, must be present to win, right? Yeah. Sorry, Laurel. All right. Go ahead and just go take your ticket over here. Next one.
The last numbers are 95.
95. That's like right next to it. Ryan, yay! Clap, clap, clap. All right, membership it is. There we go. Thank you very much. I know. And we missed Joe. All right, Xander.
The last 2 numbers are 75.
75. All right, here we go. Okay, sorry. My apologies for my bad memory.
That's the light, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Benjamin, he chose the club light. Very good. All right, Xander, here we go. 2 left. You're only left with stretch and seal. Here we go. You know what you want, Xander. Your number is?
98 is 98.
98?
The last 2 numbers.
Oh, so close. Very good. Yay. Stretch and seal it is. All right, very good. Okay, the last elective prize gets the paracord. I don't know. I kind of like paracord myself. So here we go. All right, here we go, Xander. Let's do it.
The last 2 numbers are 81.
81. Oh. All right, Taylor. Very good. All right, very nice. Go ahead and just put a ticket back in there. Because there, you already picked the winning. You could have the grand prize. That's good. You can do that, right? Yeah. Because you could see All right. All right, here we go. Now, for this lovely antenna, complete with DNA. I'm going to have my lovely assistant read the first number. What is that number?
7, 8.
7, 8. Who wins? Mark. Please come forward. There you go. Claim your sword.
Thank you.
All right, Mark, congratulations. And now, the winner of the burger. The number is
7, 3.
Oh. 7, 3. also happens to come accompanied with a transceiver. Next month we will be meeting back over to the Orem City Center again. Thank you for being here. Goodbye. One more thing I forgot. Thanks, Dalen, for reminding me. So Dalen has brought a bunch of homemade stands for your handhelds. If you'd like any one of those, he's giving those away free of charge right on that desk. I think there's a transmitter hidden among them. You might not want to take the transmitter.
Don't take the transmitter home.
The stands are free of charge. So there you go. Sorry, Dalen. Thank you for reminding me. Good night, everybody.